TheLazyPeon. What's up guys, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. Today we're going to be looking at 100 of the most awesome weapons in World of Warcraft. Before we start this video, I just want to say I'm not listing these in order of what ones I like the most, as it'd be pretty retarded comparing swords, axes, daggers and staffs, as they're all cool in their own different ways. This list only contains weapons that are still obtainable in game, and there's also no legendaries in here as most people requested that this list didn't include them. So let's get on with the video. First we're going to look at One-Handed Swords. Eternally Folded Blade. This drops from Vulcan in the Halls of Lightning on normal mode with a 22% drop rate. I like this sword because it's one of the only swords I could find to match the Bloodfang Transmog on my rogue. Primal Combatant's Quickblade. This is a Warlord Season 1 PvP weapon that can be bought for 1750 honour in Ashran. The Fireguard. This can be made with 360 blacksmithing. The sword looks much better with a nice enchant though. Maladath, Ruined Blade of the Black Flight. This drops from Broodlord Lasher in the Blackwing Lair at an 11% drop rate, and is one of my favourite vanilla weapons. Blade of Savagery. This drops from Mother Shiraz from the Black Temple with a 20% drop rate. This thing looks like it could poke someone's eye out. Slayer of the Lifeless. This drops from Gothic the Harvester in Naxxramas with an 18% drop rate on 10 player mode only, and anyone who's a fan of South Park will know that this is the sword of 1,000 truths, and even comes with a note saying foretold by Soulsman. For this reason it's easily my favourite one-handed sword in the game. The Turning Tide. This drops from Kel'Thuzad in Naxxramas with a 17% drop rate on 25 player mode only. Ardent Guard. This drops from Anubarak in the Trial of Crusader 10-man mode only with an 8% drop rate. I just wish it was slightly longer. Gleaming Quel'Serra. This stunning weapon drops from Onyxia with a 7% drop rate and has some really nice lore behind it that's worth checking out if you have the sword. Stormwake, the Tempest Reach. This can be found in a Heart of the Wind container from the boss Alakir in the Throne of the Four Winds with a 3% drop rate. Mandible of Beftalak. This drops from Beftalak in the Firelands at a 10% drop rate on 10 and 25 player difficulties. Primal Gladiator's Quickblade. This is a Warlord Season 1 PvP conquest weapon costing 1750 conquest points in Ashran. Tanner's Terrible Spine. This will drop from the boss Gruul in the Blackrock Foundry and has an unknown drop rate at the time of making this video. Ghoul Slicer. This drops from Falric in the Halls of Reflection with a 25% drop rate. Just look at those spikes. So brutal. Now for some two-handed swords. The Untamed Blade. This drops from Razorgore the Untamed in Blackwing Lair with a 10% drop rate. Ashcandy, Great Sword of the Brotherhood, and this drops from Nefarian in the Blackwing Lair with a 10% drop rate. Gobert on YouTube says, Ashcandy, Great Sword of the Brotherhood, legendary weapon in vanilla, still looks stunning today as transmog. Quel'Dalar. This sword comes with both one-handed and two-handed versions, and is rewarded from a pretty interesting questline. To start the questline you'll need a battered hilt which can be bought off the auction house, or dropped from mobs in the 3 Icecrown Citadel 5-man dungeons on heroic mode. Vengeful Gladiator's Greatsword. This is a Season 3 PvP weapon and can be purchased from Keswick the Striker in Neverstorm for 1500 honour points. Edge of Agony. This is a horde only weapon and drops from Fajola Lightbane in the Trial of the Crusader with a 9% drop chance on normal mode. Wrathful Gladiator's Greatsword. This is a Season 8 PvP weapon and can be purchased for 2250 honour points from your faction's Legacy PvP Weapons Quartermaster. Girthalak, Voice of the Deeps. This is a weapon I've wanted to get for quite some time on my warrior. It drops from the Madness of Deathwing fight with an 11% drop rate. Primal Gladiator's Greatsword. This is one of the new Warlord Season 1 Conquest PvP weapons and can be bought for 3500 conquest points in Ashran. Kagraz's Burning Blade. This is another new weapon available with the release of Blackrock Foundry. It has an unknown drop rate and drops from Flamebender Kagraz. I think it looks amazing, definitely one for you Fury warriors out there. Cataclysmic Gladiator's Greatsword. This is a Season 11 PvP weapon and can be bought for 1700 honour points from your faction's Legacy PvP weapons vendor. Zinrock, Destroyer of Worlds. This massive weapon can only be obtained via archaeology and costs 150 troll fragments and 3 troll tablets. Grand Marshal's Greatsword. This is a vanilla PvP weapon that initially required you to get the rank of Grand Marshal before you could buy it. You can now however get a replica version for transmog purposes if you have a 1800 rated battleground rating or higher. Cataclysm's Edge. This drops from Archimonde in the Battle for Mount Hyjal with an 18% drop rate. Santity on Reddit says, Cataclysm's Edge. It looks dope and has a wicked name. What more do you need? Armageddon. This is one of the largest weapons in the game and drops from Gluff in Naxxramas with a 0.9% drop rate on 25 player mode only. Turtle Nipple on Reddit says, Armageddon. It's so huge that it clips the floor when equipped by a gnome. Greatsword of the Inferno. This beast of a sword gives Armageddon a run for its money for largest weapon in the game, and is obtainable by getting the Challenge Warlord gold achievement at a cost of 1000 gold. Next we're going to move on to one-handed axes. Trogbane, Axe of the Frostborn King. This drops from the Lich King in Icecrown Citadel on 10-man mode only with a 14% drop rate. Malkorok's Skullcleave. This drops from Malkorok in the Siege of Orgrimmar on Heroic and Mythic mode, with drop rates ranging from 0.3% to 1.1%. Two-handed axes. Burn Troll the Bone Arbiter. This drops from Lord Marigar in the Icecrown Citadel on 25 player mode only, with a 29% drop rate. Gorehowl. This is the axe of Grommash Hellscream and drops from Prince Malchezaar in Karazhan with a 14% drop rate. Speedplayer1 on YouTube says, the axe carried by Grom Hellscream and then his son Garrosh Hellscream, aka Gorehowl. I don't know why, but this axe feels like it's gone through the ages and remained powerful and badass, assisting both Grom and Garrosh on their fights. The design is awesome and it shows the essence of savagery that its users had. Edge of Ruin. This axe was one of the first epic items I ever had drop for me when I was new to WoW, so I'll always remember this one. It drops from Trial of the Crusader with a 12% drop rate on Heroic mode only. Axe of the Tauren Chieftain. This drops from Echo of Bane in the End Time dungeon with a 25% drop rate. Cataclysmic Gladiator's Decapitator. This is a nice looking PvP axe from Season 11 that can be purchased for 1700 honour points from your legacy PvP weapons vendors. Experimental Specimen Slicer. This drops from Yosage the Unsleeping in Dragon Soul with a 7% drop rate. Crescent of Living Magma. This is another new weapon that will drop from 4-man Feldspar in the Blackrock Foundry and currently has an unknown drop rate. As you can see, it's pretty damn big. Arcanite Reaper. This weapon can be crafted with a skill of 300 blacksmithing and was really popular back in vanilla. Terran on Reddit says, as a vanilla warrior player, Arcanite Reaper, easy, no contest. From the incredible look to the arduous process of obtaining the blacksmithing schematic and then the materials, to the glorious 3.8 second speed of it that made it the stuff of warriors' dreams. It all came together to make the most iconic and awe-inspiring weapon in the game. In my opinion, it wasn't the most powerful weapon in vanilla, but it was the most badass. Understandably, a lot of new players will not understand the awesome nature of this weapon, since they'll likely have only interacted with it as a heirloom. One-handed maces. Blackhorn Bludgeon. This is a horde only weapon that drops from a noob rank in the Trial of the Crusader 10-man with a 7% drop rate. Brutal Gladiator's Bonecracker. This is a Season 4 PvP weapon that can be purchased for only 105 honour points from your legacy PvP weapons vendor, which is pretty cheap considering it's a really nice looking mace. Gutbuster. This drops from Festagut in Icecrown Citadel 10 player mode with a 23% drop rate. Ruthless Gladiator's Bonecracker. This is a Season 10 PvP weapon that can be bought for 1225 honour points from your faction's legacy PvP weapons vendor. Morning Star of Heroic Will. This can be found in a lesser cache of the aspects inside Dragon Soul with a 26% drop rate. Seismic Boar. This drops from the Iron Juggernaut in the Siege of Orgrimmar with a 15% drop rate, and this is my favourite one-handed mace in the game. Cataclysmic Gladiator's Pummeler. This is a Season 11 PvP weapon available to buy for 1225 honour points from your faction's legacy PvP weapons vendor. Hangar's Forge Hammer. This drops from Franzok in the Blackrock Foundry with an unknown drop rate. Two-handed maces. Sulphurous the Extinguished Hand. This is a transmoggable version of the legendary Sulphurous weapon that dropped in Molten Core. I'd love this mace on my Paladin, but with a 0.02 drop chance from a cache of the Firelord in the Firelands, it's unlikely I'll ever get it. Hammer of the Naru. This is the perfect two-handed mace for a Draenei, and has an 18% drop chance from High King Mulgar in Gruul's Lair. Samurai Slider on Reddit said, well, I'd go with Murad's hammer, the Hammer of the Naru. You can see it in the BC cinematic, just always loved this look, and you get to use the weapon of one of the most badass paladins ever. Worldbreaker. This drops from Fathom Lord Carathorus in the Serpent Shrine Cavern, with an 18% drop rate. Just imagine getting hit in the face with this thing. Ouch. The Blackhand. This is the weapon of the Warlord Blackhand and is dropped by him in Blackrock Foundry with an unknown drop rate. Daggers. Dagger of Blazing Radiance. This is another weapon from Blackrock Foundry and is dropped by Flamebender Kagraz and has an unknown drop rate. Prideful Gladiator's Shankar. I like this weapon because for a dagger it's quite large, almost sword-like. It's a Season 15 PvP weapon available to buy from the PvP vendors on the Serpent's Spine in Pandaria for 1,750 honour points. Korag's Boot Knife. This drops from Korag and Hymal with a 6% drop rate. Alexstrasza's Razor. This drops from Alexstrasza in the Firelands with an 11% drop rate. Heaven's Fall, Chris of 1,000 Lives. This dagger drops from the Lich King on 25 player mode only with a 15% drop rate. Staffs. Frost Scythe of Lord Ahun. This is probably the most badass staff in the game. It's only obtainable from June the 21st to July the 5th as part of the Midsummer Fire Festival, and has a 3% drop rate inside a Satchel of Chilled Goods, which drops from Lord Ahun. Staff of Immaculate Recovery. This staff suits a priest perfectly. It has a 17% drop chance from Gurtog Blood Boil in the Black Temple. Key to the Plains. This staff made the list purely because of how unique it is. You can craft this staff if you have 480 inscription and the relevant crafting materials. Enlightenment. This is an alliance only staff that drops from Aegis Darkbane in the Trial of the Crusader with a 7% drop rate on 10 player mode only. Illumination. This is the Horde counterpart of the Enlightenment staff and is also dropped by Aegis Darkbane in the Trial of the Crusader with a 7% drop rate. Exodar Life Staff. This drops from the world boss Doom Lord Kazakh in the Hellfire Peninsula with a 17% drop rate. Staff of Infinite Mysteries. This staff drops from the Curator inside Karazhan with a 15% drop rate. Golden Staff of the Sindorai. This Blood Elf styled staff drops from Kil'jaeden in the Sunwell with a 19% drop rate. Great Staff of the Nexus. This is contained in Alexstrasza's Gift, which is dropped from Malaghost in the Eye of Eternity on 10-man difficulty with a 17% drop rate. Dreambinder. This has an 8% chance of being looted once you defeat Freya in Ulduar on 25 player mode. Intensity. This staff drops from Ignis the Furnace Master in Ulduar 25-man mode with a 17% drop rate. Niblung. This was dropped by Lady Death Whisperer in Icecrown Citadel with a 9% drop rate. Malevolence. This is the staff I use for Transmog on my druid. I love the skull and the shape of the weapon. It drops from Halphus Wormbreaker in the Bastion of Twilight with a 6% drop rate. Chelly's Staff of Dark Mending. This is a bind on equipped staff that drops from Bastion of Twilight Trash, with drop rates ranging from 1 to 2%. I'd imagine it's pretty cheap to pick up on the auction house too, with Cataclysm raids being soloable now. Spire of Scarlet Pain. This is another bind on equipped staff. This however drops from Firelands Trash. Again, I'd imagine it's cheap enough to just pick up from the auction house. Spire of Coagulated Globulars. This drops from the Dragon Soul boss Usage the Unsleeping, with a 6% drop rate on 10 and 25 man modes. Ruthless Gladiator's Staff. This is a Season 10 PvP weapon and can be bought for 1,700 honour points from the Honour Quartermasters in your capital city. It's definitely one of the better PvP staffs Blizzard have made. Soul's Mage Staff. This drops from Archmage Soul in the Everbloom with an 8% drop rate. Polearms. Faux Reaver Polearm. This is a reskin of the Burning Crusade polearm known as Hell Reaver. It drops from a rare elite mob called Defector Dazgo in Gorgron's pit area with a 65% drop rate. Witch Hunter's Harvester. This is a scythe styled polearm that can be made with 525 blacksmithing and various materials. Black Ice. This is a really nice polearm that can be dropped from Malaghost in the Eye of Eternity 10 player mode with a 17% drop rate. Kirill, Fury of the Beasts. This is found inside an Elementium fragment from Dragon Soul with a 39% drop rate. Prideful Gladiator's Pike. This is another scythe-styled polearm. It's a Season 15 PvP weapon that can be bought for 3,500 honour points from your PvP vendor on the Serpent's Spine in Pandaria. Fist weapons. Fist of Molten Fury. This is my favourite fist weapon in the game. Just look at the size of it. This beastly weapon can be dropped by Mount Hyjal Trash with drop rates just under 1%. Thomas Paz on YouTube says, Claw and Fist of Molten Fury. In my opinion, they're one of the best looking fist weapons in the game. They make you look and feel damn powerful. The Blade Fist. This weapon definitely gives the Fists of Molten Fury a run for its money in terms of size and awesomeness. It's dropped from Kargath Blade Fist in Hymal with a 12% drop rate. I'd love to get 2 of these on my Shaman or Rogue. Fists of Deity. This drops from Mirabi and Gundrak with a 22% drop rate, another really nice fist weapon. Prideful Gladiator's Render. This is another Season 15 PvP weapon that can be bought for 1,750 honour points from the Prideful Quartermaster on the Serpent's Spine in Pandaria. Claw of the Phoenix. This drops from Allah in Tempest Keep with a 14% drop rate, and despite its low res texture, it still looks great. Sorka's Chain Fist. This fist weapon drops from Admiral Garan in the Blackrock Foundry with an unknown drop rate. Greed and Pride. This animal-faced fist weapon can be bought from the Legacy Justice Quartermaster in Dalaran for just 103 gold. Rip Cunts on Reddit says, I think Greed and Pride are some of the cooler looking fist weapons. Used to love them back in Wrath. Bows. Skyfire Hawkbow. This drops from Warbringer Omrog in the Shattered Halls with an 18% drop rate. This one seems to be popular with Blood Elf hunters. Sun Fury Bow of the Phoenix. This drops from Prince Malkazar and Karazhan with a 15% drop rate. Black Bow of the Betrayer. This is the bow of Illidan Stormrage and drops from him inside Black Temple with a 17% drop rate. Accursed Bow of the Elite. This drops from Instructor Resuvius inside Naxxramas with a 19% drop rate on 10 player mode only. Golden Bow of Quel'Thalas. This drops from the Twins inside the Sunwell Plateau with a 23% drop rate. Unfortunately, this boss is unkillable unless you use the lamppost. Cataclysmic Gladiator's Longbow. This is a Season 11 PvP weapon and can be bought for 1,700 honour points from your capital city's conquest vendor. Vishaka, Jaws of the Earth. This has got to be my favourite bow in WoW. It has a 39% drop rate from an Elementium fragment inside Dragon Soul. Crystalline Branch of Brackenspore. This is a new Warlords of Draenor weapon that has an 8% drop chance from Brackenspore in Hymal. Vengeful Gladiator's Longbow, and this is a pretty unique Season 3 PvP bow that can be bought for 750 honour points from Kha'Zix the Striker in Netherstorm. Guns. Dragon Breath Hand Cannon. This is a very unique gun that drops from Ebon Rock in the Blackwing Lair with an 11% drop rate. A squirrel with a flute on Reddit says, if Dragon Breath Hand Cannon doesn't make your list, I will be calling for a recount. It's a dragon's head surrounding a cannon barrel. When you fire, the mouth opens and spews forth death. Also, no scope, no problem. You gaze through the motherfucking eyes of Sauron when you unleash hell upon those frostballs. It needs a video devoted to itself. Core Marksmanship Rifle. This gun totally suits old school dwarf hunters and can be made with 300 engineering. Cataclysmic Gladiator's Rifle. This is a Season 11 PvP gun that can be bought for 1,700 honour points from the Conquest Quartermaster in your faction's capital city. Garan's Brutal Spear Launcher, and this drops from Admiral Garan in the Blackrock Foundry with an unknown drop rate. Korkrond Hand Cannon, and this has to be my favourite gun in WoW. It looks like a miniature rocket launcher and drops from Malkorok in the Siege of Orgrimmar with a 0.3% drop rate. So that's it guys, 100 of the most awesome weapons in the game. We got there eventually. I hope this video helps you find the perfect weapon for your future transmogs. If there's any weapons you feel should have made the list but didn't, leave a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more variety World of Warcraft content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.